He served in the House of Representatives for Texas' 26th District for 18 years. He was the House Majority Leader from 1995 to 2003. He was one of the central authors of Contract with America and the that led Republicans to power in 1994. After leaving Congress, he went on to found and head Freedom Works to fight for less government, lower taxes, and more freedom. Please welcome Leader Dick Armey.
Gave them a place where they could dance. If you want to see heaven, brother, here's your chance. I've been sent to spread the message.
Hi, y'all.
Yeah,
I'm Dick Armey, and I'm from Dallas, Texas. Well, first of all, let me just tell you how nice it is for me to be here and how nice it is to see all you here. Let me, you know, every now and then these politicians kind of crack me up. Have you ever noticed that? They can be funny. But I think the funniest thing I've heard in the last couple of weeks was President Obama when he appeared before the Republican conference, and he said something that I found quite amusing. He said, "I'm no ideologue." And I thought to myself, Mr. President, you are only just that. You are an ideologue, and you give credence to Armey's axiom that there's nothing so arrogant as a self-righteous income redistributor. You're intellectually shallow, you're romantic, you're self-indulgent, you have no ability, perhaps the most proven yourself already to be, even to the recognition of your fellow Democrats, the most incompetent president perhaps in our lifetime. You have no ability, you only have talent. And your purpose is income redistribution. Your methods are transparent. You create the perception of a crisis in order to be able to ride to the rescue and achieve your self-indulgent purposes of controlling the distribution of income in America. So whether it is the crisis in health care, which is a notion you're getting away with peddling despite the fact that America has the greatest health care in the world, the greatest science, the greatest facility, the greatest practitioners, the greatest accessibility, the greatest invention and inventiveness and innovation, and that which is copied, in fact, by the rest of the world. It needs not to be taken over by the government so that you can control the distribution of healthcare services in America. It simply needs to have reform in those obstructionist existing current government programs that are interfering with it achieving the greater efficiency that we're capable of doing. The solution is not more government control, the solution is less government control. And if you first cared about health care and then secondly dared to think deeply about it, you would see that. But that's not your purpose. That's not your mission. Then we create the crisis of the perception of an environmental catastrophe. So we can have cap and trade, and you can then control the distribution of energy. Raise its cost, by the way, and diminish the effectiveness of the program. But so what? If you're going to make an omelet, a perfect distribution of income, some eggs must be broken. And in their ideological point of view, everybody having an equal share of a lesser amount is greater than unequal shares of a greater amount, as long as they control what it is, because it is about control. And so when the president was, and I could go on with other examples, but up and down the line, the central purpose of this presidency is for the government to be in control and redistribute income. And they're willing to sabotage the performance of the American economy in order to get that. Now, what the president didn't recognize, and most politicians are slow to recognize what's going on in the world, the only people in the world that are slower to see what's really happening in the world than politicians are academicians, because they both live in insular environments. Sorry, okay, we'll throw them in too. All right, that's number 3. But the fact of the matter is, what they didn't recognize at the time they were elected was there was already an unrest stirring in America, a sense of disappointment and concern, born, quite frankly, out of the frailties and the malfunctioning of the Republicans in office. And it was real, and it was growing, and it was a groundswell of American citizen uprising of concern for our nation, because there was a sense that Washington, there were people who didn't understand and didn't treasure our great nation and were doing a disservice to it. And that groundswell was real before President Obama was elected. And then it turned into a tidal wave of fear and anxiety when we saw what we had in these ideologues in the White House, in the Speaker's office, in the Senate, who are willing to destroy the American economy, the American way of life, and the American culture in order to get their hands on our lives and control the way things are done in our lives. And that is now today recognized. Even, by the way, notice how long it took for us to get their attention. Even in September 12th, when 10,000 of us showed up on the mall, you remember that? Were any of you there among us? Oh my goodness gracious. We had to ask, do you hear us now? They were in a state of denial. We weren't real. And we were not somebody they needed to listen to. By the way, what are these things? I always thought if you knew what you were talking about and had something on your heart to say, you didn't need them. All right. So this groundswell has become now recognized as the American Tea Party grassroots small government movement. And what baffles the liberals is that they understand, this movement, I say, understands and appreciates the miracle and the genius of America. America is the soundest construct of a political economy and defense and for the purpose of serving individual liberty in the history of the world. Churchill knew that. And it has served the world better than any nation state ever in the history of the world. We have been, and we are even still yet today, the greatest blessing to the world that the world has ever known. Because we had enough sense to trust the genius and the ability and the resourcefulness and the decency of ourselves and limit government and leave ourselves in control. That's who we are, and that is what has worked so well. And these folks want to deconstruct it and put themselves in charge. They know not better, and they care even less. And so here we are. Now, what also baffles, the liberals, they fascinate me. I'm not real impressed with them. First of all, they're not deep thinking. My feeling always was there's a substantial difference between being competent and arrogant and being incompetent and arrogant. And they know not the difference. But the first thing, they look at all of us and say, oh, you poor misguided people, you're not agreeing with me. You know, there must be something wrong with you. And then the second thing is, you're going to get what they would have you to have, whether you like it or not, the arrogance and the audacity they have. And then the third thing is, they can't put 30 people on the street unless they're organized from the top down and paid to be there. So the notion that hundreds of thousands, even millions of people would come by their own volition at their own expense by their own initiative, by their own means, to get to a central place where they could all be seen together saying what they had to say, which was, leave us alone. We didn't come to Washington as the gimme gang asking for more. We came to Washington as citizens quite confident in our own ability to take care of ourselves and our families if you just get out of the way and leave us alone and don't steal our money and our property. They can't comprehend that. So they've been looking for somebody to be in charge. And they've been picking out people. That's this guy, that guy, the other guy, this guy. It's nobody. That's why it's beautiful. This grassroots movement that's taken back America is 1,000 points of entrepreneurial lights for liberty, and we're all here by our own separate initiative.